Good afternoon, Jennifer Taylor.
Good afternoon, Tava Baird. It is wonderful to be back in here together and with
Yes.
everyone in the new year. It will be when everyone gets to hear this.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're right. We're recording in December, but we already have one in the can for next week. So happy 2026, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year. I am so excited for all of the amazing things that this is going to bring for all of us.
Yes. And as usual, we are flying by the seat of our pants today. Um, I was almost flying by the seat of no pants. I was supposed to be on Zoom here with Jen a while ago, and 3 minutes after we were supposed to start, I was still running around my house looking for pants. And so she texts me, "Oh, the Zoom link is available." And I just texted back in all caps, "I have to find pants." So we both have pants on, and we're very excited to be with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to see what's going to come through. We were talking some beforehand and talking about a certain sound that we were hearing and that I've started hearing and that Tava actually heard when she was writing a certain scene in the Book of High Places. And I have that sound so loudly that I'm really excited to see. I don't know, maybe we'll get to explore that a little bit. I'm excited to see what the sound is or who is connected to it. So maybe we will find out.
All right. So let's go with some music and we'll see if Samael has anything he'd like to share this
All right.
afternoon.
Hum yen hum yen no. Hum yen hum yen no. 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 No.
Oh my
Let's see.
goodness, that was lovely. Hear the bells in it. You could hear the
Really?
chimes in it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And the strangest thing came from Samael while you were singing that. It seems to me like the two things don't go hand in hand. He started talking and I went, "Really?" And he was like, "Yes," and kept talking. And I was like, "No, wait, really?" And he's like, "Yes." And so this is what he said. And I guess I don't know how this came out of that lovely, sweet, almost like a song heralding something new. But I guess as we go further into it, it makes sense. Um, he
Wow. Yeah,
says,
I'm really interested now.
he says, let us speak on obsession. An obsession exists because it fills a need, a desire unfulfilled, a desire for knowledge, for intimacy, or revenge. Often it is thought that our obsessions are over persons, but it is not the being themselves we worry with our teeth, but the idea of them. We believe they have taken, in the removal of themselves from our sphere, something we needed, something we are desperate for. In this calm and cold space between the lights, take time to contemplate your imbalances, your obsessions with certain narratives, the stories you foist upon others, the scarcities you fill in an unhealthy and unbalanced way. Look elsewhere for those needs, for security, safety, stimulation, acceptance. Find the right fit for your desires and step into a holy place. I did not expect that beautiful song to generate obsession. Remember that song from like the 80s? You are an obsession. You're my obsession.
Yes.
Remember that song?
Yes.
Um,
What do you want me
me
to,
to
to,
do.
to
Yeah,
make me feel
exactly.
like you do, or something like that?
Something like that. I think it was you. What do you want me to do to make you sleep with me? But that's
Oh yeah, no, I think you're right.
you
I
did the
think that
rated
is where it
PG
was supposed to go.
version. Um, yeah, I I heard that song and I thought, oh, this song is going to be on, this is going to be on bells and grounding. And then he starts talking about obsession. And obsession is like a dangerous, sort of sticky word. But
You,
I thought that this was interesting. An obsession exists because it fills a need. And we have lots of obsessions. Some of them we would say, healthy, I guess. There are people who are obsessed with eating well or obsessed with getting enough sleep or obsessed with exercising, I suppose. But obsession generally means you've gone too far into it to the detriment of yourself. So even when you're obsessed with knowledge, that usually means there's an imbalance there somewhere. And it's interesting. I'm not a young person right now, but I will tell you this. Whenever I am online and I see videos on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, that the word obsessed gets a lot of airtime these days. People will be like, oh, this little plastic toy, I'm low key obsessed. And it just, you hear it constantly to the point where it's lost a lot of its meaning because it's become slang now. But let's look up what the actual definition of obsessed is.
while you're doing that, I wonder. I'm thinking about what the connection is between the song and the words that were brought through. And as I was singing, I felt like I created a space between, like I opened up a space, and I was at the end, I was walking, I was stepping into it and walking to where it became a space in between, like a borderland kind of space.
This is really interesting. So I looked up obsess, verb. First definition: preoccupy or fill the mind of someone continually, intrusively, and to a troubling extent. He was obsessed with the theme of death, or also of a person, to be preoccupied with or constantly worrying about something. Her husband, who is obsessing with the wrong she has done him. Then listen to the word origin of the word obsess. Late Middle English, in the sense of haunt or possess, referring to an evil spirit. From Latin obsess, which means besieged, from the verb obsedere, ob meaning opposite, and sedere meaning sit. The current sense dates from the late 19th century. So we have an older definition that isn't just intrusive thoughts preoccupying us, but it is of being besieged or haunted or possessed, which I find really interesting. And if we take that definition and plug it back into what Samael said, let's see if it reads a little differently. Let us speak on obsession, which we could also say was being besieged. Let us speak on besiegement. Is that a word? On being under siege. Being under siege exists because it fills a need, a desire unfulfilled, a desire for knowledge or intimacy or revenge. So when we
Or
feel like we're
maybe,
being besieged by certain thoughts, often it is thought that our, I'm going to say, besiegements or our battles are over persons, but it is not the being themselves we worry with our teeth. It is the idea of them. We believe they have taken, in the removal of themselves from our sphere, something we needed, something we are desperate for. In this calm and cold space between the lights, take time to contemplate your imbalances, your, instead of obsessions, I'm going to say your besiegement or your wrong sitting with certain narratives, the stories you foist upon others, and the scarcities you fill in an unhealthy and unbalanced way. Look elsewhere for those needs, for security, safety, stimulation, acceptance. Find the right fit for your desires and step into a holy place. This
yeah,
gives it a slightly different flavor. I don't know if it
I
does for you.
it does. I feel like I have two thoughts that came up for me. I was talking about what are the beings or this energy, like what or who is here and has shown up. So I had said that I hear these sounds primarily when I go on this specific website and I start reading about this energetic training program, right? And I get really excited and I start hearing all of these really high pitched, like sparkling kind of like sound, crystalline, like a whole sky filled with very high pitched crystal wind chimes that have this very sparkly sound and almost like vision to me. And then when I think about what he was saying, I wonder if it's actually part of me that is going, these people, this training program, these people know all these things I don't. They have an answer that I don't have. They know something and I want it. I want to know that. I want to have that ability. I want to be able to do that. and that invites in a certain energy or certain beings that come in and are attracted to that state, and that can become an obsession because it's also a very high vibration feeling, and that it's easy to then become obsessed with that feeling of there's more, somebody knows something I don't, somebody has something and I want to learn it, I want to study with them, I want to do that, and there's this excitement that takes you beyond it. But maybe what he's saying is that kind of a cautioning against becoming kind of almost addicted to that state and that feeling, and recognizing that I have the answers inside. It's not that it's not okay to study with other people, to do these other things, but it's an imbalance to be leaning so far out and reaching for this other thing, and that whatever I'm hearing has to do with maybe leaning too far over the railing energetically, and it's causing an imbalance.
I think you are totally on the right track. And one of the other things you said to me before we started was that you have a tendency to see a program and get really excited about it. But then sometimes you start and you realize it's not in the vein where you need to be at that moment
Yeah,
and you
or I
don't
get,
finish.
yeah, or I start to remember from within myself, and I get that information that I needed way earlier on than actually completing the whole program. And then I jump to, all right, now it's time to do the next thing.
It was funny because you were talking and I think I nodded, but I didn't move my cursor or anything else. And this big thumbs up came up floating above your head. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I don't know how that happened. But Samael, as you were speaking, said, yes, you are turned in the wrong direction, singer. Turn around and sing again. Invert yourself and face them if you wish to see. You said, I wonder who these beings are. He is now giving instruction that you may have simply been sitting wrong, and that the normal intrusive thought that you have of somebody else has this knowledge and I need to go through them to get it, they may still have wonderful things to offer. But he is saying, you're turned in the wrong direction, singer. And this is going to be very funny because if you do go stand up in the other direction and invert yourself, it's going to be a lot of Jen Butt on YouTube when this
It's
finally
gonna be
goes
like
up.
all Gen Butt.
It'll be the Jen Butt episode. It'll be our highest rated episode. Um, you are turned in the wrong direction, singer. Turn around and sing again. Invert yourself and face them if you wish to see. Should we? Are you up for trying it?
Yeah, yeah.
And an inversion usually happens for you when something like a new gateway or a new something is going to open.
Yeah, it happens naturally in a song when there's a shift from one part to the next part, or I invert myself and my forehead is on the ground, and then it's like I can see down through the ground, like into another realm, and then I end up working in that other realm through that inversion. But
He
it's when
says,
I tend to see.
if you wish to see, this information will balance or begin to balance your desire in a
Interesting.
healthy way. And you know what I noticed was we talked about this particular website and program last time we met,
Yes.
and you started off telling me about it and you said, oh my goodness, it's a huge outlay of capital and time, and I don't even know how I would swing that. And then you brought up that there was a smaller way to introduce yourself to it. And we left with you going, yeah, I'll probably do that. But now we've come back a couple days later, and the idea of the whole thing is on the table again. There's that intrusive thought of the whole thing at once. happening again. You've cycled off of where we thought you were and come back around to, whoa, I'm still getting so much energy. Maybe I should skip right to the big thing again. So I'm curious that he seems to think there'll be something in the song. So maybe that's why the song feels so strange in relation to the idea of obsession, is that obsession is being out of balance or sort of sticking with one idea over and over and over again. Maybe, like you said, the idea that you are not worthy to come up with these answers on your own, although we know you are. And the song is the balance or the pathway to find balance from that thought. And so obviously they would be very different because
Right.
one is on the other end of the seesaw. So now I'm just dying to know. And you may stand up and go, all I got was a crick in my neck. But I'm really curious to know if you sing again and turn around. We can avert the camera so you don't, or leave your chair in place so you don't feel like it's the Jen Fanny show. Um, Oh my God, for our listeners that are in the UK, I shouldn't have said Fanny. That means something very different over there.
Oh no.
The Jen Bum Show. How's that? We'll say that. Um, Suddenly, this is going to get flagged as not appropriate for anybody. Um, and I'm really curious to see if you get a symbol or a picture or a vision or an experience.
Yeah, I am really interested, and I keep thinking about, so yeah, that what I sang and did at the beginning was this. It ended up being like this integration, this combining these two sides, and my hands were actually sort of weaving back and forth in front of me, and then opened a space that I was walking, and it felt, high vibration and positive, but it felt more balanced. It was like that. It was this middle path. Literally, it was a path that was actually created in a space between. I feel like the song was a balanced thing in
Yes.
between, but it didn't necessarily contain the answer to the question that I was asking. So,
Yeah, and it makes sense if that was a balanced song and he's speaking of imbalance, that song is sort of the remedy. He says, bring your stones, bring your stones.
I have them right here in front of me. And it's, what's so interesting is that when I think I told you on Tuesday before the last episode that I'd been thinking about and reading all this stuff and gotten so excited that I was really in a completely imbalanced place. I was vibrating so high and I was so almost, it felt like hyper about it energetically, that I came in and I was like, how am I going to do a podcast? Like, I really need to get myself together because this is not the energy I want to bring to people. And I sat and I talked to Crone, and I got my stones and I sat with the stones, and I actually got the water that I'd brought back from that stream in Vermont, and I had that on the center of me and the stones on either side, and that brought me back into a balanced place again. It was like that, I'd like tilted, I'd been leaning, reaching out like too far, and it brought me back in again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so it's
man,
interesting that you said the stones, because I was like, those are exactly what brought me back
right
the
there.
last time. Okay, so bring my stones, turn, it sounds like I'm turning and facing them, like whoever them that has been brought in that
Yes.
I'm hearing that are making all those sparkling crystalline sounds.
Yes, you are turned in the wrong direction, singer. So I don't know if that's just in your head you have to turn around, or if you physically need to turn around. I guess it couldn't hurt to do both.
Yeah, I feel like couldn't hurt to actually physically turn to, if nothing else, just bring that mindset of I'm turning and facing them. When it's
Yeah.
interesting too, because before I sang the first time, I asked Archangel Michael, because I didn't know who they were or what it was. I asked Michael to hold the space and guide me. And if it was something that was beneficial to bring through for everyone, and it was in the highest good of the podcast, and it was safe and good for me to allow them in, or to allow in exactly the amount that would be in benefit. So I think what I got was exactly that. Michael going, yeah, all right, so let's hold this space. I'll allow in exactly the thing, but it wasn't a let's just turn and blatantly face them and do that. But I'd asked Michael to hold that space
Right.
and only allow, so it makes sense then that that was exactly what I got.
Yeah. I'm so curious. And I'm curious to see what else he says while you're doing this.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, goodness. Okay.
ex Metaphysical Experiments live on the air of Mystical Musings.
I tend to very often be a part of these sorts of research experiments.
So,
It's
I'm
like,
so sorry.
no, that's okay. It's cool and fun and a new way to explore, and it pushes me, which is good. So, all right, I will. Yeah, I will leave the chair pushed in so you do not have to look at my behind the entire time.
Right, I'm gonna go audio dark here.
All right.
This experience went on for about 10 minutes, so I edited out the long periods of silence.
We can teach you. We can gift you anything you want to learn. But you must be here fully. This space, this time. That's why the chimera, anchoring plant and animal energies, helping to anchor it more fully into manifestation in this space and time on this planet.
Okay. Well, I am interested to know what you just wrote down and what you saw. And then I have 4 pages of information for you.
Whew. Oh,
How
wow.
was that?
That was that was wild. Um, wow. So as soon as I like turned around and it just said, okay, and I spoke to Michael beforehand and said, I trust you and I trust your guidance and I'm asking you to allow me to meet them, but also respect your wisdom and what you know of me and what's safe, and to just sort of hold those borders of the safety of this going into it, to make sure I don't kind of go too far because I don't know who or what I'm about to meet. And so I turned around and I was like, okay, I'm ready to meet you and see who this is. And like instantly, I had this sense of all these beings gathered around. And the words Galactic Council came to me. And then I felt like there was this addition of something about Atlantis. Like, I don't know if it was like Galactic Council of Atlantis or if the Atlantis thing was another thing, because there was this group in sort of a semicircle all around that had that kind of classic alien like look or sense about them. But then there was also whatever it was that was related to Atlantis was sort of in front of them a little bit and to the right. So I don't know I don't know what that was. And so I was like, whoa, okay. And so I was singing that, I was thinking, all right, he told me to invert myself. But I was like, all right, I need to sing a little bit until I get the sense that it's time to do that. So when it was time to do that and I put my forehead to the ground, I was thinking, I don't know that I'm going to see anything. Like I still felt like I could see all of them out beyond me. And then I spent a little while there. And then I felt like I was sort of tumbling down through the floor, which is like kind of what happens sometimes. I was just sort of then falling into the other realm, wherever it was. And it was all darkness, which is common. And there was this one like diamond like star deep down far out underneath of me, and I dove down and almost swam kind of through the space and got that like little, I don't know if it like a diamond like star, and brought it back and like tucked it almost like there was a pocket in my heart chakra, like in the front, just maybe even slightly to the right, like sort of tucked it in my pocket, and then almost like swam back up through and back up to myself. And there was this sense of like, I'm just keeping that for later. And I felt like the message that I got was like, we will teach you whatever it is that you need to know, but you need to be fully here, almost like you need to be here on this part of the planet, really, really connected and grounded into this part of the planet. Not, off traveling somewhere. There's not some other space sort of thing, like place that I need to be to do this. I need to be really super grounded here. And then I had that sense that, and I know this won't make sense for other people right now, we were talking about this program and it involved creating chimera that were a combination of plant and animal, and that there was a sense that somehow that made sense to me, and that connecting plant and animal energies and really getting that much deeper into the connection with the earth here allows then for the higher work to happen, because it not only grounds me the way that Samael was saying to take my stones, but that it also allows for the higher work to be manifest and like anchored on earth at this time. That like part of the purpose of this is to bring through these higher vibrations and to anchor them on earth, which is definitely something I've been working with for years. But that in order to do that, it's like I have to dive deeper into the earth animal plant connection, because that connects me deeper into the earth and the well of information there to be able to anchor it through. So that was my experience of it.
Well, this is what came through on my end while you were doing that on your end, and I'll be interested to see. Good luck integrating all this. If we do nothing, if not attempt integration. Samael says, when you walk now, singer, you walk as the keeper of Omnivara, the keeper of the temple. You must decide, when acting as an ambassador for its energies, what you will allow to mix and blend with the vibrations it holds. Who will be allowed to visit and will be gifted its energy in return. When letting in a new teacher, we must return to the idea that everything, even between a teacher and a student, should aim for an equal exchange of energies. You will be changed by them. This means that Omnivara too will change, and their holy places will also be affected by your visit. And so ask yourself, what do you seek in the relationship? At this stage of your understanding, it is acknowledged that energies will travel in both directions. Are you sitting well in regards to your seeking of wisdom? And how will you determine that? Indeed, we are all blind monks searching out meaning with our hands. But your hands are different. They carry others with them. They are used to direct and guide. When beings sound their vessels behind you like bells, do not ask only, who are they? Also ask, what do I wish them to be? And for the sake of Omnivara, how will you determine if the time is right to let them in? Then there was a break. And then, while you started writing, he said this. A plant and an animal in one form is an integration between those who are birthed in the dark, those who are birthed in the light, a tying together of things that we say, that cannot be. But anything can be, singer, anything. The advent of the chimera is an opening to possibility and learning to embrace our monsters. And then when you were talking just now, and you were talking about being very tied to the earth in this place, he said, what energetic preparations are being made in the circle of stones? I don't know if the listeners know about what's going on in your garden.
Yeah, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I was guided to clear away a couple of the garden beds to make space to create a stone circle. But as I was feeling into the stones that were supposed to be there, and what it was that was supposed to happen in that space, I started feeling guided that there was more to add. So it wasn't just the cardinal directions, but that then there was the cornerstones of Omnivara that were supposed to be added. And that I have this sense of those being flat, like flat kind of to the ground, and that the cardinal direction stones being vertical, and that the Omnivara stones might be in the in between positions, like southeast, southwest, that kind of thing, as opposed to the cardinal directions. Then there was the idea of the addition of a partial labyrinth as a way of entering that space. And I started having all these visions of like this complex, like sacred geometry thing that was happening that was beyond what the physical stones were going to be there. And I had seen almost like a copper pyramid with the foundations of it potentially being on the cornerstones of Omnivara. But I felt like there were all these lines and all these things that it was almost like I was building like energetic and physical structure based on sacred geometry and directions and the spirits of place there. And I'd worked with the plants and the spirits of the plants that were offering their energy and their support to anchoring the place, and the willow that would hold one of the corners. But then when I found about this other, this kind of path, this community and the things, the idea of the spiral started coming in. And then I started creating this spiral that went in and trying to figure out how you incorporate a spiral and the four directions and the things. And so I'd ended up placing all of the stones on the spiral, but then that makes everything off a little bit. So currently it's just sort of a disarray thing in my mind where I've gotten stuck of how to incorporate. I think I've started trying to incorporate too many different ideas into one thing. And I probably need to just drop the spiral and go back to where I was.
Because I think the spiral is going to be the actual raising of energy itself within the structure, perhaps. I mean, a lot of times a spiral pathway is something you walk as a means from going around 4 points in different degrees. Like you're constantly cycling through 4 points, moving closer to a center or outward. So I think that's, I mean, from my standpoint, that sounds right, that the spiral doesn't have to be a physical item, because a simple raising of energy would create a spiral pattern within whatever else you do have structurally there.
Oh, and there was a thing of like adding an outer ring that had 12 points that had to do with the zodiac. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what the dance within the wheel of the year, dance within the sphere is. That's what it actually is meant to be, because I knew it never resonated right that it was the wheel of the year, like sort of the magical kind of wheel of the year in
Right.
that sense. And yet, astrology isn't something that has resonated before, but all of a sudden there was this sense of, I think that's supposed to be a part of it as well.
It's so interesting. Last night I was in research for my writing looking up how the Greeks, what they named their months. And they went on a lunar calendar, but going by a lunar calendar means occasionally, and they had every month was a certain prescribed number of days, and it was the same number of, or nights. It was the same number in each month, but that doesn't work out correctly. So
Right.
every now and then they had to throw in a 13th month. They had a Poseidon month already, and they had Poseidon 2. Got thrown in whenever they were off kilter, whenever they'd gotten too far off because their months didn't fit perfectly because lunar calendars are different. But I just found that really interesting. There's this this border between 12 and 13. We have the 12 zodiac signs, and you know it's
Yeah.
just kind of interesting to me, this adjustment that we always make to fit in the extra of the 13.
Oh,
But
something I forgot to tell you when
yeah.
you were talking about it, I noticed that as I'm standing there talking and there are all these, all these beings out there, there was this circle of light that was going around me. It was going around and around, like from left to right, continuously circling that, making basically a continuous circle of light, but there was a movement to it of around and around.
Ooh.
And they were all on the outside of it. And at one point I was like, huh, wonder what this thing. And at one point I sort of consciously just went, all right, we're going to just drop that light. And everybody flooded in. It was like I was mobbed. And I was like, oh, no, put that back, put it back.
Do you
And
think the circle was Michael's
I do. I
protections?
think Michael was like, you asked it, I'm allowing it, but I'm keeping everybody at a distance. And I realized when I was having the interaction then, from the distance that they were from me and having that circle of light going around me, I felt very solid and stable and centered, and I wasn't overwhelmed in any way. And as
Right.
soon as I dropped that ring of light, it was like, if you imagine like when people like rush the field in a concert or something, it was like that. And I was like, whoa, oh my goodness. And it was funny because I was thinking there's a lot of enthusiasm about coming to me, and it's too much. Like there are too many that want my attention and want my focus. And actually there was a point at which, and it was the Atlantis one, that it's like they like actually ducked underneath the light and came up inside it. And I feel like there was another thinner, smaller ring that was still between me and them, but we had like sort of a more personal, a more individual personal dialogue, but everybody else was still kept kind of at bay beyond it.
Right. It's interesting because, you used the term that you were walking in the borderlands, and essentially when you dropped the circle, you dropped the edge, you dropped the place that existed to put them in one state and you in another. And then we saw overwhelm. And it's interesting because if as Samael is talking about, it used to be you were a seeker, and you went and you signed up for different classes and you met different teachers and you went and explored different things. But your role has changed now. You now are holding so much knowledge and so much connection and the ability to see and hear things that others can't. But there are a lot of hands in your hands. So when you go seek, and we've talked before about anytime you interact with someone, anytime you learn something, there's an exchange of energy there. So I think one of the things that he's bringing up here is that, say you were to go sign up for this class, you're not in a place anymore where you can look at it as, I'm just going to go take this class and see what it is. There is now the understanding there that whatever you learn from them is going to affect the way that you teach and the way that you perform your duties as the keeper of Omnivara. Whatever knowledge you gain from them, whatever experiences you have, positive or negative, are going to affect the way that you do your, for lack of a better term, magic, the way that you move your energies. And so it's interesting that he said, you said, who are these beings? I want to see them. But he also wants you to examine, before I turn around, who is it that I wish them to be? And what does that say about the type of knowledge that I'm seeking? And once I know what type of knowledge I am seeking, and it is a type of knowledge that I know will benefit Omnivara and those that I teach and those that I heal and balance, how do I determine if this person is the right person to exchange knowledge with, or not at this time. And so this kind of goes into this whole idea, the idea that we've been talking about of um, we look at the ways that we sort of operate and the thoughts that we have all the time. And I think it's more like the second definition of obsession. Are you sitting in the right and seeing when you judge whether or not this will be beneficial to you? Do you realize the impact that it will have on all of those that will then seek knowledge from you? And they are going to be affected by what you do. There's going to be this huge exchange of energies. And so I just think it's really neat. If we go back to the very first thing about that he said about the concept of obsession, often it is thought that our obsessions are over persons, but it is not the person being themselves we worry with our teeth, but the idea of them. I'm curious, people that you might want to study with, that you've been reading about and getting huge, like this feels right. What need in you or what need in Omnivara do you see that knowledge? Do you see that interaction satisfying?
Yeah, and that's something that came up to me the other day when I was sitting and contemplating and trying to go from that initial over the top excitement level to, yeah, how does this work with everything that else that I was already doing? And, here I know I'm supposed to be developing this whole course on channeling with your voice and movement and these other aspects. And I was thinking, I was like, well, how does this work with all of that? And I'm like, I don't know that it does. It's just sort of another tangent that it's a very exciting, enticing sort of tangent because it seems like people who have discovered abilities and things that I haven't. And yet I have to admit, I have had the thought a number of times during it. I could probably, just through reading the types of things that I could learn, I could probably connect and learn the things if I wanted to. Maybe it's just the idea that these things are possible. And I think that's what it is. This is a group of people who have gone beyond what seemed like the realms of possible and the excitement of the idea that all of this is possible and all of this stuff can be done. It's like it's raised the bar of what's possible. And it may just be that I need to do that for myself and what I'm bringing through. And also know if there are elements I feel are missing. The beings that I believe are largely the ones that are working with them, they just came to me and said, we'll teach you whatever you want to know. But I need to put it back in the context of Omnivara and what I came here to do and not get distracted with the glittery, glistening, exciting. And it's so funny to me that it is a glittery, glistening, sparkly kind of sound that I hear. You know how it's like people are like, ooh, sparkle, ooh, glittery. It's like
Yeah.
the idea of like it is a very glittery, very attractive kind of energy and enticing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that is going to benefit, at least in the way that they're doing it, that is necessarily going to benefit what I'm doing. But just the idea of going beyond what I thought was possible could be.
And he says that right here. Anything can be singer. Anything. The advent of the chimera is an opening to possibility. So he's agreeing with that sentiment, that feeling you have of, oh my gosh, this might push me beyond the boundaries of what I thought it was possible for me to do. I think what he's saying here, though, is now when you pick your teachers, you now know even more about your work and who you are. So perhaps, like, what process will you go through to sort of see if their ideas are going to raise you to the next level or open doors of possibility, or like how will you feel them out? How will you know if with all of the things that you are doing, it is going to be an equal exchange where you are going to get as much from it as you give? Well, you can't know that. But if you proceed with caution, you can find out some of that through further conversation, through perhaps diving deeper into some of the things that they have written, or maybe taking like that introductory course and saying, is this about to skip me forward to where I don't need 9 sessions on blank because I've done that before,
Right.
but I might have just called it by a different name. Like, what is the process? And it's an interesting idea for myself as well, because I tend to chase every impulse that comes across me. Ooh, that looks fun. Let's make that. Ooh, that looks great. Let's do that. And what I'm having to do now is sit down and do some editing and say, I now know what my work is supposed to be. I know who I'm supposed to speak for. There are things he wants me to do and experiences he wants me to have, and then from those experiences, pass it on to others. How do I reach out and know, yes, this is what needs to happen next? It's really hard. Like with the Oracle deck, there was no question. It was sit down, you are doing this now, you are not getting any sleep until it happens, put it out in the world. And then I saw this huge return of energy from having expended that energy. Just an enormous, like, whoa, right? But my impulse is to go, I'm the only one in this, I'll amuse myself. And now I'm going to have to sit and go, wait, I am now not just me. I also have to keep in mind the work that I was put here to do. How am I going to discern whether this next beautiful, sparkly thing is actually the tool I need or a beautiful, sparkly thing? And I mean, that's
Yeah.
not to say that we don't get to enjoy some beautiful, sparkly things because we're human. We should have a balance between, everything. I'm sorry, Samael, but everything can't be for the seraphim. Every now and then I got to eat a cheeseburger just for me. That's just, oh God, now I want a cheeseburger. Like this idea that when you're working with the divine, you're just supposed to be 100% divine all the time, like every now and then, you know, sorry, this is going to be about pants again. I want to sit around in my underpants and play video games like the next person, right? But it really is. And it's hard to navigate the further into this we get as our community gets bigger and the opportunities we have become more and more. And the demands on our time grow. And there's so many people that we want to reach out to and interact with and help. How do we determine what is the best path forward for the work that we want to do? I don't know the answer to that, but he certainly posed a lot of interesting questions.
Yes, and we will continue our search for answers next week. But first, we will leave you with a song to start off your new year in a grounded and balanced place.